What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Storyteller Jet today with another episode of the That's So Fire Talk Show, and we have a very special guest with us today, Neen James. And the story behind that is actually like kind of funny because we've met what like 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, easy. It feels like a bazillion years ago.
Yeah, we were both in I think somewhere up north, like I think Columbus or something like that. And she was working on a project with White Castle, which I was helping with as well. And we met at the airport coming back, and she was the keynote speaker to that event.
Right. It
Yeah.
was so fun. Absolutely so much fun.
Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about some really awesome stuff, like how to create exceptional experiences with your business, and also maybe if we have time, attention pays, which is
Sure.
some of the two fantastic books that she's written, and wow, she has worked with some really great people and great organization. Some of them that I can't even name right now. And she already told me, like, do not mention those names. So we're gonna start doing a quick introduction of who you are, Neen, and then we're gonna delve into the conversation today. Are you ready?
Of course. Well, good day. It is absolutely a treat to serve you and be part of such an amazing community that you have. I grew up in corporate business in Australia, Jet. So, for people who are watching trying to work out this crazy accent, it's a mishmash of Aussie and American. And in my career, I worked in retail, banking, telecommunications, and the oil industry. There were not a lot of chicks in oil when I was there. But as an executive strategist, I'm obsessed with this whole idea of how do we create these exceptional experiences for people. And so I think when you're watching this, chances are you are thinking, gosh, how do I elevate? We hear these terms like surprise and delight people, but what does that even mean as a business owner, as an expert, a thought leader? And so for me, I think what's unique about me, Jet, is that I've had this incredible career serving a lot of luxury brands, a lot of legacy brands as well. And so, what I'm fortunate to do is to bring some of that information as a keynote speaker, as you mentioned, to brands around the world. I act as an executive strategist and executive coach to a lot of CEOs and their teams. And here's the thing, Jet, the reason I do what I do, I want the world to pay attention. I believe that when we pay attention, companies make more money, our relationships are deeper, and we take care of the planet on which we live. And so, because of that, my work has evolved from Attention Pays, the book that you mentioned, to the new book, Exceptional Experiences. That's a little bit about me.
This is fantastic. I always say on this show that if you notice my sexy accent, so today I cannot say that at all because she has a sexier accent than me. Okay, this is so great to like listen you talk and that Aussie accent and all of that. That's it's pretty cool.
Thank you. But I think what's really cool about your accent and something that is a bonus to me is because while I was recording the book in your studio, which has been the most incredible experience, by the way, there's some French terms and you were giving me in the moment coaching. So, I mean, not only is the studio been fantastic to be able to be part of your team, but that in the spot attention to detail coaching you gave me, I'm very grateful for.
So great to thank you so much for saying that. And I'm always like I don't get to do that a lot. So when I get to use a little bit of my French and people coming here and talking that, so it's fantastic. So it's total pleasure as well.
Well, the audio book will be better because of your input.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So let's do a quick introduction about how you got started into the entrepreneur journey. How did you get started?
Well, I mentioned in my opening comments that I'd grown up in these major organizations in Australia. So, as a corporate girl through and through. And then I was often the girl who was tapped to do the all hands update or speak to the board or give an update or lead a project. So, I found myself often in front of audiences, which I loved, by the way. And someone said to me once, they said, Neen, you should be a speaker. And I remember asking the person, can you make any money doing that? Like, is that a job? There's a whole industry. The thought leaders watching this know exactly what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And so I discovered the world of speaking. So I ended up leaving my corporate career, setting up my own company. This is over 20 years ago now. I mean, I know I sound like I'm 10, but like, let's just add a whole lot of zeros to that. So what I did then was I thought, okay, knowing what I know, I was always being asked to speak at best practice conferences. I was always being asked to lead projects and for my advice and coaching. And so I created my company then, leaving my corporate career. And so, look, I went from having Sydney City, Harbour View. We had secretaries back then. That's how old I am. I had the car space, the expense account, like all the trappings of an amazing corporate career. And I went from that to my tiny little single bedroom apartment in Sydney City, sitting at a desk in my pajamas, like now what
Now
do you
what?
do? Like,
Yep.
and so any entrepreneurs who've been on this journey understand that you've had the security of someone putting money in your bank account, and now that's you. You're the person who has to do that. So that's how I started my entrepreneurial journey. I was very fortunate though, because my first client was a retainer client, and I made sure that I had the cash flow to bring one of my team members with me. So I had team instantly. And so when we moved to the US over 20 years ago now, I had to start all over again. And so I had no network. I knew my realtor, and that was it. And so I've had to build my entire business here in the US completely from scratch. One of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah. So that sounds like you had a lot of challenges along the way. Can you share how you navigated those challenges and how you solved those challenges to like coming that was for me too. Coming from another country to here,
Hmm.
not having so many different connections and like for me too, like I used to live in Ohio.
Okay.
Moving to the Tampa Bay area was completely new to me. It was just me and my wife.
Right?
So we had to kind of, meet new people, make new
Hmm.
connections, and building a business from scratch. What are some of the challenges that you face as a new entrepreneur in a new location, and how did you solve them?
I think you nailed it. It's the people. Right? So when you whether you moved cities, whether you move companies, whether you move your kids from one school to the next, the reality is it's always about the human connection. And so for me, the challenge was I knew nobody. I literally had to start from scratch. And I remember what I did the first day we were in our home. I didn't even have all of our furniture, but I did have a suitcase. My computer wasn't we didn't have internet because I had no social security number. Apparently you need those in America. And so I remember sitting there and Googling women's networks plus where I lived. And that was literally how I started my entrepreneurial journey in the US. And so I got dressed. I tried to steam a suit that I had in my suitcase, and I rocked up to this small group of women. And then I decided that I was going to stand in service of any person I met. So as soon as I met someone, my philosophy was, who can I connect them to? Now, understand, I knew my realtor. She is literally the only person that I know. So I started introducing her to people. And so I had this process. My challenge was I knew nobody. I had a lovely network in Australia and I had a great reputation in Australia. But when you move to a new location or you start a new company, people don't know that's what you offer. So for me, the challenge was building a network and quickly. And so I took some fairly high profile roles. I volunteered, I served on boards, I immersed myself in the Chamber of Commerce. I'd never even been in a Chamber of Commerce before.
Hmm.
So what I did was networked. And so what I found was as soon as I met someone, I'd think, how can I stand in service of this person? Who do I know? Who do they need to know? Oh, let me make that connection. And so that's how I overcame that challenge. And now people will say to me, who do you know in this? Who do you know here? Who do you know there? And that's a real privilege. One of the greatest compliments I got, Jet, when I first moved here was, you know more people here like in the last year than I've known for like living here for 30 years. So,
Really?
yeah. So
Wow.
I'm very focused on being able to make sure the community that I know also knows the other people. And so think about that. Like even this morning, I was able to recommend you because of the experience I had here to someone who's going to have a huge benefit of working with you. That's what I think is important is that we as entrepreneurs or leaders in our organization connect people as much as we can.
Yeah, and absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that recommendation as well. Greatly appreciated. But when you lead with value and kind of try to help other people, it tends to come back to you tenfold.
For sure. Yeah, we have not spent a single dollar on marketing. We have been so fortunate, and I say we, my team is tiny. Don't please don't be impressed by that. I and the team that is around me have been fortunate where everything has been referral. And so, for people who are watching, maybe you're a thought leader, an expert in your area. I think one of the best things you can do is lead from value first, because then when people have a sample of your expertise, your beautiful brain, the real estate in your brain, and they have access to that, they want to also tell other people about it too.
Absolutely. Um, this is so great. So you have a very small team, mighty team,
Yes.
and you've been able to do so many great um work with so many great organizations,
Mhm,
including Four Seasons,
mhm.
White Castle. I know you don't do a lot of fast food, but a lot of really great organizations. So, how did you grow your business to get in front of some of those biggest like names in the industry?
I've mentioned serving first, and I believe in that. I volunteered. So I would serve on committees. I volunteered at the chamber. If they needed a project organized, fundraiser, a gala, you name it, I would put my hand up. One of the things that I think is really important for us all to think about is that I believe in giving first. So if you give of your talent, your expertise, your service, I had nothing to give except my brain. That's it. And I remember I couldn't even I had no money. So what was I going to do? So I remember I needed to have my bank's accounts all set up in a online system. And I met this lovely CPA. And so I said to her, I tell you what, I'll help you come and get more productive in your office if you'll set up my QuickBooks for me. And she's like, deal. So I bartered. So that's how I basically helped myself for the infrastructure of my business. I started bartering my brain for people's, the brilliance of theirs that I needed, and I would just trade them time, right? So
Mhm.
bartering was how I started to build my relationships and what I needed. But then what I found was they might say, "Hey, we're getting this group together." And I was like, "Do you need a speaker?" And so I did it for free because I had time on my hands. And so I would go and I would speak. And then obviously, the more you speak, the more you speak. So if you are an expert and passionate about your area of expertise, it is so contagious. I've always walked into every room and assumed everyone wants to play with me. I always have my whole career. But if you can do that with your expertise as well, people are attracted to that. And then they want to be able to help you.
Absolutely. I remember 6, 7 years ago when you were speaking at White Castle and me sitting in the audience listening to you speak. And I was like, wow, this is such a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Um, and I learned so much from it. And obviously, you've written 4 books on your own, and over 10 of them have your name on it.
Mhm.
Can you describe some of the books and some of the, I guess, like second part of that question, some of the topics that you use from this to for your speaking engagements?
Yeah, for sure. When I was in my corporate career, I was known as the girl who could get things done. And so when I decided to go out on my own, I didn't really know what my expertise was. And it was a mentor who said, productivity, you get things done, you do it with integrity, you like to deliver on time. So my first book, which you can't find anymore, but my first book was called Secrets of Super Productivity. And it was all the things that I had learned and that I knew. And it was just a compilation of blogs basically that I had written about the topic. And as my work evolved, I then wrote Folding Time. And folding time, I've always believed you can't manage time, but you can manage your attention. And so folding time is filled with strategies about your own productivity. How do you achieve twice as much in half the amount of time? I still get requested for that, and we can make that book available to all your viewers. I can give you a PDF you're welcome to share.
Awesome.
But then what happened was because I knew we couldn't manage time, I started to see that society had changed so much and we were living in this time of an attention deficit. And what I realized was my belief about managing your attention became greater. So I started to research that. I interviewed hundreds of CEOs, and as a result of that, I published the book Attention Pays because I do believe that it is intention that makes attention valuable.
Love
And
it.
so I've always had this mission in my life that I want everyone to feel seen and heard. It's something that's really core to my being. And as my work in attention evolved and I started working with so many luxury brands who are the epitome of attention and human connection, I realized that those brands were teaching me all these great luxury lessons. And so I've always believed luxury is a mindset. And while I come from very humble beginnings, I do not come from a wealthy background. I did not get born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I started to think, okay, well, luxury, everyone deserves luxury every day, right? So luxury is a mindset. So I went out to find a research study on that, Jet. And wouldn't you know, there's not one single study.
Yeah.
Isn't that so? There's plenty of studies on how does luxury make you feel, but
Mhm.
nothing on how do you think about luxury. I wanted to know how does that affect your purchasing decisions? How does that influence your confidence, your professional development? Who makes the decisions? How long does it take to make decisions? And because I consult so many CEOs, I thought I need some evidence. So I did a research study, the only one of its kind. And that is how it is evolved into the new book, Exceptional Experiences. And so the body of work has evolved from productivity and focus to attention, attention now, absolutely to connection and exceptional
I
experiences.
love this. And I cannot wait to delve really deep on the book, Exceptional Experiences. And it's been such a pleasure working with you. recording the audiobook on
Fun.
Monday, and then we're gonna do another session today. And I've learned so much just sitting and like running the teleprompter, and can't wait to talk more about that. Now let's go back a little bit. What are some of the tips that you would give to somebody as it relates to productivity?
So, one of the things that I think is happening right now is we're overwhelmed, we're overstressed, we're overtired, we're overstimulated. So, we're suffering from this over trilogy, is what I call it. And so, I think what has happened is like we're constantly connected to our devices. So, we're connected 24/7, and we've never felt more disconnected in our life. And in our world, our digital world with AI, which I'm a fan of, I think people are craving analog human connection. So when it comes to productivity, one of the things I think we need to think about is while you cannot eliminate all the distractions, that's not our reality, right? Because we live in a global world when we're connected all the time. I think what you have to be able to do is just think of time really differently. For example, I believe the sweetest amount of time is 15 minutes. I think you can conquer the world in 15 minutes. And what I want to encourage our viewers to think about and those listening to you is say, just give me 15 minutes in the morning, and here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to identify your top three not negotiable activities. So, before your head hits the pillow tonight, what are three things you must get done? Because these are the things that are going to help you move your business forward or share your intellectual property or help drive the results you want. What I think happens is we have this constant to do list in our head. We wake up with a to do list, we go to bed with a to do list. And I'm just asking you to identify three things: a strategic appointment with yourself. What I'd love you to start thinking about is look at time differently. You might hear people say, like, oh, I don't have time. Well, that's not true. Because you and I, we get 1,440 minutes in a day. We both get the same amount of time. We might choose to spend our time differently. But when someone says to you, I don't have time, they're saying, I don't have time for you. And that's not making people feel seen and valued. And so, what I'd rather you say is, I didn't choose to spend time on that. So much more liberating. Don't say that to your boss. That's never a good idea, right? Or your investors. I think from a productivity point of view, I would think about doing less, not more. Really getting very clear on what are your highest priorities. I sort of think like, like when you go on a road trip. So when you're driving somewhere and then you go to pack the boot of the car, what do they call it? The trunk of the car, right? So the thing at the back, right? You know what I'm talking about. You have all these suitcases on the sidewalk and you and your wife, you might be thinking, okay, what goes in first? Well, generally, the large luggage goes in first, right?
Mhm.
And then you smush in all the kids' toys and everything around it, correct?
Absolutely.
Right. So our day is like a road trip. We need to ensure that the large luggage items go in first. But too often, people are just trying to cross things off a list and they're not actually getting to those highest priorities. So,
Yeah.
from a productivity point of view, I would invite you to consider what's your top three things you need to do today.
Absolutely. I love that advice. And it's actually a really great reminder because there's a book that I was reading, and that is basically uh, kind of presented it exactly kind of like this. It starts like, hey, take 80%, the 80-20
For
rule,
sure.
and then take 80%. 20 rules of that 80% 20 rule until you get to one item.
That one
um
thing.
yeah, the one thing. So fantastic that you share that, so thank you for
My
sharing that.
privilege.
Now let's talk a little bit about attention pace, like another book
Mhm.
that you um, created. And I went to Amazon and I was like looking at all the fantastic books that you've had, and this one stood out to me like perfect, because that's what we are in. Like
Mhm.
attention is
Attention.
probably
Yeah.
one of the most important
Mhm.
things
For sure.
right now in the world. So can you talk to me about that book specifically? What does it?
Yeah. I think everyone wants your attention. Not everybody deserves your attention. And we're living in this, let's talk about the over trilogy, with all of this distraction that's around us. We really need to think about our attention differently. I think we want to pay attention, but we don't know how. Think about it. You tell your kids to pay attention, their teachers tell us, they tell them to pay attention. We're always being told pay attention, but I don't think we actually know how. I think we want to. What I discovered in the research of the book Attention Pays is we pay attention in three ways. The first way is personal attention. This is truly about being thoughtful. This is who deserves your attention. The second way we pay attention is professional attention. This is about the productivity piece. This is about getting things done. This is about what deserves your attention. And the third way we pay attention is global attention. This is about being a contributor in the world. This is how you're showing up and how you're paying attention in the world. So personal, professional, and global. When you think about that, sometimes we're really good at one and maybe not as good as the other. And so when it comes to attention, I think we really need to reprioritize who and what gets our attention and how we're showing up. As a leader in the world, you are role modeling your attention. You're showing people whether they're valuable to you or not. I mean, how often have you gone into a restaurant and you see this hot couple on a hot date and they both got their faces stuck in their phone? Like, are they texting each other? I'm always fascinated by this, right?
Are they texting each other?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think what's happened is we've made technology more important than people. And what we need to do is take a step back and say, who and what deserves my attention? How am I going to show up as a leader today? Because you know that feeling when someone's giving you their undivided attention. Best lesson I ever got in attention was from my 5-year-old friend. So Donovan, he and I were in this very heated debate, and he was all dressed in his like little Superman costume. We were debating who is cooler. Is it Superman or Batman? Now, clearly it's Batman, I believe. So we're in this heated debate, and I was talking to his mum, and he didn't think I was paying attention to him. He kept asking me questions. I was answering them, but he got so mad. He got so mad at me, Jet. He climbed into my lap. He grabbed my face in his tiny little hands, and he said, Neen, listen with your eyes.
5 years old.
God. But it took a 5-year-old to remind me we don't just listen with our ears.
Mhm.
We listen with our eyes, we listen with our heart, we listen with our soul. And I think Donovan's advice is powerful for all of us, is that if we truly want to show up in the world and serve in the best way, we need to listen with our eyes.
Fantastic advice. Now let's talk about your now beautiful book that is going to be released in October, if I
October
believe.
14th, that's right.
October 14. So, can you talk to me a little bit about exceptional experiences and what that book will teach people?
I can. Often with experiences, we hear all of these terms, right? Surprise and delight. And that all sounds great. But how? And so, what the book has been designed to do is give you a process to be able to capture the attention of clients you want to work with, or maybe even existing clients you have, and walk them through what we call the 5 luxury levers. It's a process so that you can also convert them to be advocates for your business. So, think about this book as the how to of how to drive revenue, how to differentiate yourself, but ultimately how to create those exceptional experiences so your clients end up referring you and helping you grow your business. It's designed for leaders who are responsible for driving revenue in their business, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a Fortune 50 CEO. And because I've had the privilege of working across so many of those brands, there's a variety of examples in the book. It's a framework. And I believe in very practical how to advice, which we talked about when we were recording.
Mhm.
I believe that the book is filled with strategies and stories that will inspire you to think, how do I apply that to my own business? Now, there is a stealth message in the book. Ultimately, Jet, I just want everyone to feel seen and heard and valued. And one industry that does that well is luxury. And
Mhm.
so I've taken all the best lessons of all the luxury brands that I've had the privilege of working with. I've combined it with my proprietary luxury research study, and I've popped that in a book. So it's a scalable message. And so for any experts out there who maybe want to write a book is one of the easiest ways for people to have a taste of your expertise, but then to be able to share it with others. And that's what I hope your listeners are able to do with this book as well.
Fantastic. So, you talk about the 5 levers to elevate every aspect of your business.
Correct.
Can we give a quick synopsis of each of those levers?
for
So, kind of
sure.
like a taste for that.
Yes.
So,
So think about a triangle model, right? And what I'm ultimately wanting people to do is to capture mind share. That's at the bottom. That's the foundation. How do you be able to capture the mind share of people, stay top of mind for people? And then the pinnacle of the triangle is market share. How do you drive revenue? So that's what the model is based on. But the first thing we need to do is entice people to work with you. And to entice people to work with you, we want to captivate their attention, and they're probably asking themselves, why should I pay attention to you and your brand? So that's the first lever. There's some examples there in storytelling and helping people belong. And then we go to invite. This is where you invite them to be part of your brand and the experience that you offer. And there's some really fun strategies to do that. And then as we move up the luxury levers, what happens is then we start to excite people about working with us as we demonstrate our expertise. And then they start to wonder, what else can they do? And then we move to delight. Delight is exactly as it sounds. This is engaging the five senses. This is being able to create really fabulous collaborations, having those multisensory experiences. There's so many strategies in the book for that. And then we get to the pinnacle, and that is ignite. Now, which is very on brand for you with everything that you do. And ignite is about being able to have these people be your advocates for your business, for your expertise. And so there's very specific strategies in each of those five luxury levers to help you apply to your business.
This is fantastic. There are some really great strategies that you've shared in the book, and I cannot wait for us to maybe share one of them I have
Mhm.
in particular in mind. But what are some of the things that people can do like today to make sure that when the client comes to their businesses that they have an exceptional experience?
You know, there's one that's always overlooked. In the early 1900s, there was a book written by a fabulous gentleman by the name of Dale Carnegie. He wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? It's an oldie but a goodie, and I think it needs to be compulsory reading for every person in sales. But he said this. He said, a person's name is the sweetest sound. Luxury brands know how to personalize. And we don't use our clients' names enough, our patients' names, our guests' names, our students' names. And yet people tune into their name, and it's a no cost attention grabbing strategy. So when you look at your digital communications, your in person communications, to make people feel seen, how about using their name? It costs you nothing. You might have to update your process to do it, but the simplicity of using someone's name, every one of us can do that. When you are being served by a barista, use their name. When you hand your keys to a valet, use their name. Like whenever someone enters your business, use their name when you know it. And people love coming back to you because they feel seen. That doesn't cost you anything. But I think when it comes to exceptional, it's absolutely about personalization and customization. Because in our world, people have become cautious because of AI. They don't know whether it's like a human that's sending them the email. They don't know whether you have written that using AI, and great for efficiency. Not anti AI. I'm a big believer in it. I do believe, though, we need to customize more. So if you think about it, it's actually easier to upsell an existing client than it is to get a new client. I think we spend a lot of money trying to get new business, and then we assume they're going to stay with us.
Hmm.
And we forget to pay attention to them. We're all out there chasing the new business. What about taking care of the existing clients who've already invested with you and have already shown you their support and loyalty? So what I'd love our viewers to think about is, what could you do to acknowledge the people who are already in business with you and make them feel special, because they will tell others about that too.
Absolutely. One of the most fascinating story that you shared at the book, which I was like, I didn't even know that it existed, is the Delta Porsche story, which
Yes,
was
Delta. Yes.
like that was so fantastic. I didn't even know that they did something like that. Can you elaborate and talk a little bit about that
Sure.
specific
We
strategy?
use Delta Airlines as an example in the book because, and Tim Mapes, who is the chief communications officer, I've had the privilege of spending time with him, and I interviewed him in depth about the book. The reason I chose Delta Airlines is because they role model every single of the five luxury levers. But here's the secret people don't know. For Diamond Medallion members, what happens is they have what they call a plane side Porsche transfer. What that means is it's a surprise. You can't book it, you can't pay for it. But say, for example, we're traveling, I might have a tight connection. And as a Diamond Medallion member, I would get a text that says, we're going to meet you plane side. And if you want to bring a friend, you can. And so you walk down the stairs of the plane, the Porsche will take you to the gate you need to be, so you're plane side again. And it is such a fun thing that they do. What Delta is often looking at is personalization and customization, another reason why I chose them for the book. And so this Porsche transfer is one, you see it on social media. Now that I've told you about it, you're going to see it more and more. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I've never heard of it before. That was like that caught me by surprise. And I was like, that is fantastic. That is some
Yeah.
service over here.
And you're like, I want that.
Yeah,
I want that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the book, you talk about the four luxury mindset. Can
Mhm.
you elaborate a little bit on those as well for me?
Yeah, I've always believed luxury is a mindset. You heard me say that earlier. And when I did a research study in it, I was wrong. There's not one luxury mindset, there are four. And here's what we discovered. At a high level, the four luxury mindsets, it's that they see and experience luxury very differently. For example, the first, the reluctant and the removed, they think luxury is hard. They don't think brands understand them. And so it's not they can't enjoy luxury, they're just too busy. They're overwhelmed. That's the reluctant and removed. The second is the person who's the pro prioritizer. They're the person who uses luxury as power for their career, reputation, and they value sustainability. They value authenticity from brands. The third is the confident and content. They say, I got this, I'm good, I don't need luxury, but here's how I'd like to use it. They use it to create memories with people who are important to them. That's my confident and content. And the fourth of the luxury mindsets is the luxury lover. And this is the person who says, I'm worth it. Luxury for everyone every day. Now, what I love about the luxury lover, for those of you who are watching who have a business, you want to attract the luxury lover because they have what I call a big mouth. They will tell everyone about your brand. If you attract a luxury lover as an advocate, they will make sure they tell others about your experience on social media, in their circles. So, those four luxury mindsets, one's not better than the other, they're just very different. And all of you watching have those clients, you have them all. What we need to understand is how to speak the luxury language that people need to hear, especially if you're responsible for revenue. Because you might have decision makers with different mindsets. You have to speak the words they want to hear. And in the book, we outline what some of those words are.
That's fantastic. We talked about everything about luxury earlier, but can you give me some specific examples on how you can apply those luxury principles that you talk about in your book?
Yeah, for sure. Think about the ease of storytelling. It's what you do, it's what we all do. Experts do storytelling all the time. But when you think about telling stories of your patients, your guests, your students, and telling your stories in ways that are like sound bites, it helps people have a deeper connection to you. Think about storytelling as a specific strategy. Think about engaging the five senses. Sometimes we're really good at making sure everything looks visually beautiful, but we don't always think about the smell or the touch, the sensation. And so, one of the things that I discovered, and it's very well researched, that our sense of smell helps us have a deeper emotional connection. Sometimes you walk into a luxury hotel and you have this scent, and all of a sudden you remember that property, right? So, where we're recording the Tampa edition is a client and they have a signature friend, a scent. So, if I'm in Madrid at the edition or New York they have the same scent. And so that association is really powerful. Every business owner can have a look around their environment, and it could be your digital, your online, or it could be your in person. But engaging the senses to elevate that sensation for your guest, patient, student, whoever comes into your business, that's a very easy way to instantly accelerate it.
Yeah. When you were talking about that, it reminded me of something that you mentioned on the book, which was like you were traveling and you were doing laundry at the hotel
Mhm.
and they lost it. And with all this kind of, craziness that happened with that, but the way that they responded to that was so crazy. Can you talk about that specifically and how important that that extra step that they took is?
Sure. You should know I refuse to check a bag. I'm always scared people are going to lose my bag, right? So I refuse to check a bag, which means I often do laundry on the road. And so I had sent my laundry out, a travel outfit. I was at the Mandarin Oriental Ritz in Madrid. I was very spoiled. It was my client who was hosting me there. So I sent it out and they lost my travel pants, only for a few hours. But they were mortified when they found out. So what happened was then the housekeeping staff all signed an apology letter, right? To me, like personally signed, not stamped. Everyone had signed it. And then they sent this gift to my room, which was full of housekeeping items like a do not disturb sign, shoe trees, lint rollers. It was fascinating to me that that was how they responded. Now, I got my pants back. Life is good. This is what I call a champagne problem, Jet. I mean, seriously, I was in a beautiful hotel. I could have easily found another pair of pants. But what was really cool was they made it a champagne moment. because that level of the handwritten note, the sweet gift, the thoughtfulness, that's what I call a champagne moment. Something that brings you joy, makes you smile. They took a champagne problem and they made it a champagne moment.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that. And throughout your book, you have section that talks about champagne problems and
Hmm.
also champagne moments.
Right.
For the people that are watching this, can you share to them what is a champagne problem and what is a champagne moment?
Here's the thing, we are living in a time which we have never lived in before. When we think about poverty, wars, that's real problems. What we have as leaders, champagne problem. And so I think we need to also have some perspective of some of the things. We are so fortunate to be in the world that we are in, and I think sometimes we get distracted by that. But a champagne moment, a moment that brings you joy, makes you smile, brings a surprise and delight to other people, that can be something like sipping your coffee from a beautiful coffee mug. It might be about taking an extra few minutes to meditate for you. So it doesn't have to cost you anything. I mean, if it involves champagne, fabulous. I love champagne. But what I want people to start looking for is champagne moments every day. And you can gift those champagne moments to your clients. Being able to use their name, personalizing a handwritten note, being able to say thank you for something, taking those extra few moments of attention we talked about earlier to create a champagne moment for someone else. But I would challenge all of our viewers, go out and find a champagne moment today and then post it and then tag me, tag you, and then use the hashtag champagne moments. Because the more that we can spread this joy and delight, the more exceptional experiences you're going to tune in and find yourself.
Absolutely. I would love to take this back a little bit because I know the behind story of where that champagne thing kind of got started.
Hmm.
You shared that fascinating story
Right.
of that person that kind of created that inspired you
Sure.
for that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I was raised by a single mom in Australia, and I was always fascinated with bold women who could do great things in the world. There's this one woman, and she had a French accent, sounded so powerful to me. And what was fascinating about her was she became a widow very young with a 5-year-old daughter, and she inherited her husband's business. And so at the time, she thought, well, like, what do I do with this? And she was tenacious, maybe someone would say stubborn. She was a force of nature, never took no for an answer. And these are qualities I admire in people. And what she thought about was, how do I create an experience that no one else has? And everyone watching knows who she is, and her name is Barb Nicole Ponsardin. And if that doesn't ring a bell to you, you've seen her. You've seen her in your hotels, in your grocery stores, because you know her because of the distinct yellow label on the bottle. You know her as Veuve Clicquot because we know that Veuve is the French word for widow. So, Madame Clicquot, as she is known, is one of my greatest inspirations because she is someone who, despite everything, Napoleon's creating chaos around her with the wars, she's raising a 5-year-old daughter. She had to break all the gender barriers. She had to do things that had never been done before. And it is her that saved the champagne industry. I don't know if people realize this, but she's the reason we have champagne today.
Fantastic. That is such a great story, and I mean, I learned so much from your book, reading, and I cannot wait to buy it too. So now for the people that are watching this too, a lot of them are coaches, aspiring speakers,
Mhm.
and doing all of that. What is your advice for somebody that wants to go out there and use their talents to teach other people and doing public speaking?
I've been doing this a long, long time. But the more you speak, the more you speak. So I believe when you're starting, you get the reps. You speak for anyone or anything, like just do it. And so I would suggest that you want to start with your message because the message is what people buy. I think people focus too much on their personal brand when really what I know my clients, the meeting planners who hire me, the bureaus I work with, the corporate clients, they buy the message. The packaging, the branding, that's a bonus. Right? And I'm being paid for my energy on stage. I understand that. But if you're aspiring in this industry, you need a commercial message. You need a message that people feel that would help them, that they want to exchange of value for. So I would start with the more you speak, the more you speak. If you're a coach, I would offer that maybe you want to start piloting your coaching practice Offer to coach a few people you know in exchange for a testimonial. Do it for free. Build up some evidence of your frameworks and your systems, and then start to charge for it. If you are a writer and an aspiring writer, the more you write, the more you write. If you're a writer, you got to write. You can't just think about writing, you can't just talk about writing. Speaking is the same. And the more you speak, the better you get. The more you watch audiences that resonate with your message, and then the more that you delve into that. I believe in also creating frameworks or what I call contextual models. If you have depth of intellectual property, start cataloging it, start writing it down, start shaping it into models and metaphors and make it easy for people to digest. And that's how you make it more commercial as well.
That's awesome. How do you um, come in the stage? Like, how do you like? I remember hearing you speak in that event, and that was so flawlessly
Thank
executed.
you.
How do you get to that point, and how do you like get people engaged, like while you're doing your speaking engagements?
You know, I think what happens when you're a speaker is it looks so easy on stage, right? And that's my job. My job is for it just to look like a conversation. Jet, I don't think of it as a presentation. I think of it as a conversation. And so because I'm a conversational in my real life, I'm same on stage. Same with the crew. You saw me with the crew, same person on stage. So for me, there is no difference. So what I believe in engagement is if you genuinely are standing in service of that room of people, and you are going to bring them everything you know, chances are I might have done 100 hours of work for that 45 minutes or an hour on stage. But my job is to make it look easy. My job is to make it look. I want my client, everyone to go up to them and go, thank goodness for getting Neen. She was great. I love that. Right. And so for me, the great test is that the client looks like a hero, that they have practical things they can take away. But engagement is about choosing service first. So no ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before I go on stage, it's always, I always say, well, I can't be nervous if I stand in service. If my job is to go out there and create a fun conversation with the audience, like I said, it's a conversation, not a presentation. Sometimes there's 100 people in the conversation, sometimes there's 5,000 people in the conversation. Doesn't matter, it's still a conversation. My job is just to make sure that every person in that room realizes that I'm so glad they're there and that they can take things away.
Yeah, there is something that you mentioned while you were answering that question that I wouldn't that we should not gloss over. The amount of time that it takes before doing the presentation, and you do something that I thought was so incredible. You call every single executive and have a conversation
I do.
with them
Mm-hmm.
before you do the actual keynote.
I do,
Can
Jen.
you
That's
talk about
amazing
that?
you remember that.
Absolutely.
So we have a process in my team called BDA. We talk about that in the book a little bit, before, during, and after. And before I ever step foot on a stage or at the end of a board table, I will always make sure I'm interviewing the key stakeholders. Sometimes that's board members, executive team, clients, vendors. And because what I'm looking for is I want to understand what are their biggest challenges and how can I help support that? How can I solve for some of that? And being able to interview so significantly in advance allows me to tailor and customize my message. Remember, I said luxury is about personalization and customization? Well, I
Hmm.
better walk my talk as well. What that allows me to do is to know the acronyms, the challenges, the KPIs. I remember at White Castle, I was also able to stand up and talk about all of the charities they'd given to, all of the support that they had given in their community because I did my research. And so there's a significant amount of work that goes in before I step foot on stage. It's also to me about knowing the names of all the AV crew, the camera person who's working with me, the meeting planner, and I take all of that on stage with me. And so for me, that level of personalization, using people's names, knowing what's important to that room of people, their stories, the thing that happened last night at the party that I need to know about because I can make a joke of it on stage. But the only way I can do that to be over prepared is to be making sure I do all the work in advance so that during the speech, I'm 100% present. The only way that I can stand in service of that room of people is I don't look at my phone before I get on stage. I'm very present for what's happening in the room at that moment. And then you have more fun because it's a conversation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned something very key that a lot of speakers kind of miss. And I think us and the creators or like the people filming the event never get any acknowledgement. But if something goes wrong, who gets all the blame?
Exactly. I hate that. I hate that. And so, yes. And here's, I have like, for people watching, this may sound crazy, But I carry Starbucks gift vouchers with me everywhere, or Tim Hortons when I'm in Canada, right? And so I always write love notes to each of the team, always give them either cash or a Starbucks voucher or whatever, wherever I am. But I make sure too that I have met them all in advance, that I use their names to thank them before and after and during. But here's the other thing that's really fascinating to me is when someone in the crew says, "Oh my God, I loved your keynote." Like, that's the best compliment in the whole world. Ask any professional speaker who's been doing this for a long time, like I have. The crew hear thousands of people in a year, but when one of the crew says you did a good job, oh, best compliment ever.
That's awesome.
That's the most rewarding thing. I don't know if people know that, but to me, if I can impress the camera person, the person who's producing the event, or the team on the mixing desk, makes me so happy.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you, as a speaker, that even think about that, because like me, I've helped people with doing like events and stuff like that. We are the last to get acknowledged,
Mm,
and never taken care of. Like, but you take it even a step further, carrying gift cards with you. That is
you
so
bet.
fantastic.
Yeah, and
Thank you
it's
for
easy
doing
for
that.
everyone to do, right? It's also about helping people feel seen and heard. And I believe sound check is a vital part of the process and getting to know the crew and the stage, and they're the ones who are going to make you a success.
Hmm.
It's the crew,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And if the slides don't work or your microphone doesn't work, too bad, so sad. Like, you should be a professional and you should be able to move on. When I see people have tensions over that stuff, I'm like, crazy. That's like amateur. Don't
Yeah.
be that person.
Yeah. If you had to give the audience an elevator pitch of what the book is about, what would you say?
I don't believe in elevator pitches. I mean, how much business gets done in an elevator? I
Yep.
mean, seriously.
Yep.
But here's what I would say. If you're looking for a way to help differentiate your brand and the things that you offer in the world, this is going to give you the framework on how to do that. It's a step by step guide that you can apply using what I know from luxury so that you can apply it to your business.
And folks, that's Exceptional Experiences by Neen James.
Thanks, Dad.
For the people that might be interested in learning more about the book, and I know the pre-order is available right now
Hmm.
on Amazon.
Please
Um,
pre order it.
yep. How can they find it? And like, I know I just mentioned Amazon, but
Sure.
like, what are some of the ways that some people might be able to get the book?
So I believe in really supporting small business. And so I would encourage you to go to bookshop.org and choose your favorite bookstore, your local bookstore, and order directly from them. That would be fantastic. I would love that. Of course, you can use the fabulous Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Target, like all of those places it's available for pre-order. But I would love you to consider supporting your local community as well, especially if you're a small business watching this today. But you can go to neenjames.com and you'll find all of the different links of where you can pre-order the book today.
Fantastic. What is your parting advice for anybody watching this video about exceptional experiences or attention pays or anything in general?
You know, we have such a privilege to show up as leaders today. I would invite you to ensure that you take a moment to ensure that every person who is with you today feels seen and heard and valued.
Awesome. Well, Neen, it was such a pleasure having you on the
Thank
show.
you.
And it's about time for us to start getting ready for the recording of your
I
book,
can't
which
wait.
is fantastic. Super pumped to have you here. And please make sure to pre-order a book. Um, I am definitely going to be doing that as well. So fantastic. And I hope you learned a few things today on today's talk show. There you
Thanks,
have
Jen.
it. Let's go, baby. It's fire.